Hey guys, it is Sean and Dave here from the Saturday Morning Cartoons podcast. We just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to the following people for going to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons and supporting the show. Thank you, Derek Haynes,
Jason Woods, MD,
Jamal Newman,
Melanie Harker,
Allison Keene,
the one and only Sean Paul Ellis,
and Dave Trumbore.
Now, you might have heard us mention a few names that sound familiar to you, especially Sean and myself. The reason that we do this is because we're not just asking for you guys to shell out your hard-earned money, we're also doing the same thing. So we appreciate your support for the show, and we just want to let you know that we are working hard to make the show better and to bring you bigger and brighter things in the future.
So thank you guys so much for listening. You can head over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons to support the show. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the island of Macross, and brought to you by Petite Cola. I'll be your co-host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me, as always, the new and improved Sean Paul Ellis Mark II. How's it going, Sean?
David, I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Just sipping some Petite Cola over here.
Petite Cola.
It's so refreshing, but there are so few calories. It's petite.
It's petite.
I gotta keep my girlish figure.
Who doesn't?
Who
oh boy!
Doesn't in the world of Macross.
Man, is it the world of Macross or is it the world of Robotech?
The wild world of both of these things.
I don't know. I feel like 1,000 people are gonna scream at their computers right now.
Half our listener base just exploded upon.
Yeah. So I didn't know what the difference was. I still kind of have some questions about what the difference is.
I mean, to be fair, I still do too. I'm sure a lot of fans out there who are like hardcore fans are ready to tear us apart. But we'll dip into the history of this show a little bit. But yeah, I did not realize. I knew it was kind of a hodgepodge of a couple different shows. I did not realize that it was actually like 3 different series that came together to form this thing. But having that knowledge ahead of time and then watching it, I was just like, oh yeah, that's where that one show starts and that's where that other show picks up. Because it's like blatantly obvious.
Oh man, we should also preface this and let everybody know that we are in round 2 of our March Mecha Madness month.
Woo! Ding, ding,
Woo!
ding. 2 mechs enter,
feel like
1 mech leaves.
Yeah, I feel like we should have like a Transformer sound at this point. Except that it's not Transformers. We should be very clear about what these rules are.
Yeah. So like Transformers are sentient alien robots. We don't want any part of that here. We're talking about mecha.
Yeah.
None of that Transformers crap. So we're talking mecha here. Mecha is basically just like a mobile suit, a mobile armored tank, some sort of mobile vehicle that needs a human pilot or some sort of pilot to drive and fly around and shoot stuff, because that's all we really care about. But we're not talking combiners here either, right? So we're not talking Power Rangers. We're not talking Voltron. We're talking specifically like the Gundam, the Robotech, the Escaflowne, things like that. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. And this is our second week. So last week we kind of started in the middle of the pack, which was nice. We watched some shows that I don't think either of us had ever watched before. So you can go back and listen to that episode. And we kind of do our March Madness shtick where we score these series on a few different categories. And then we tally everything up at the end, fight about it for a few seconds, and then figure out who wins for that particular week. So each week we'll have one winner. And then at the end of the month, we'll have one overall king of the mecha. Yeah, that's it. That's how that works.
Yeah, it's a real WWE style fight with
it's a real WMD situation.
Oh.
World Mecha Dance.
Domination was
what I meant.
Domination. There you go.
Domination.
You got it.
Yeah, no dances.
So this week is interesting because we are getting into, as we've already previously mentioned, Robotech, the Macross saga.
Yeah.
As well as also Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam.
Yeah, one of about 4,000 Gundam series that I think are out there.
I've clearly gotten to the point, and this is true for both of the cartoons, is that I have kind of danced around and watched a little bit of each at some point, but I don't understand the whole lore. And at this point, I've gotten so far along in my life where I'm embarrassed and scared to ask somebody about it. So this is kind of helpful to kind of have that foray back into it. Just be like, all right, like these are some things. And I felt I felt like tonight, if we declare any kind of a winner, there was at least one that was a winner in terms of exposition and kind of helping me out.
Yes.
In understanding what the story was. Because, you might be a first-time watcher or viewer if you're watching and starting with an episode 1, which is, of course, what we're doing this month. And so all of these shows we have found and tallied from scores that are on imdb.com that are compiled from viewer reviews and numbers that people have ranked and rated on these. And this is how we seeded everything for the month of March. So we didn't have any outside influence. These are all current existing fan favorites that are out there on IMDb.
Yeah, the fun thing is, like you said, one of these series helps you along with the exposition. Another one just throws you into the deep end. And
another one is like, fuck you, you're going to figure this out.
It tells you straight up, like, if you're not a fan of what came before, then get the fuck out. All right,
and then you have to, it becomes a drinking game because you just have to take a shot every time they say the word Camille.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you have to do a Bill Cosby impression every time they say the word Camille.
Ooh, I'll take a shot.
It was the Cosby Show. That was his wife's name on the Cosby Show. It was Camille.
Oh, was it really? It was Camille?
Yeah. Yeah, it was Camille.
Cosby?
Yeah.
No,
because every time.
What was her last name? It wasn't Cosby. Huxtable.
Huxtable.
Camille
Camille Huxtable.
Huxtable.
Yeah.
The weird thing was when Camille Huxtable piloted a Gundam in that one episode. I think it was like third season. That was fucked up. That was a real
you're talking about Macross because clearly in the world of Mobile Suit Gundam, everything was fucking whitewashed in that. We will get into that a little bit more later, but man, it was embarrassingly white.
That's a great way to describe it. I think there was actually a Gundam spinoff that was just like Gundam Omicron, embarrassingly white. It was a series that came up.
How many Greek letters are they going to run through on
all
this?
of them? I think
all
at least
of them?
Twice. Yeah, they're on like their 52nd chapter of the Gundam fraternity.
Knock it off.
So many. So there's one that like the acronym was longer than the actual name because it was just like there was so many letters. All right. Before we get into all that, how about you give us a super brief and not exhaustive at all history of Robotech?
Oh my god, we should definitely get into this. So Robotech is a science fiction franchise that began with an 85-episode anime TV series produced by Harmony Gold USA in association with Tatsunoko Productions and first released in the United States in 1985. It was adapted from the 3 original and unrelated Japanese anime television series in order to reach the minimum 65-episode number required for syndication,
Good
guys.
job, guys.
We did it.
We did it. So proud.
These 3 unrelated and original series were the Super Dimension Fortress Macross, which aired from 82 to 83, Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, which was in 84, and then we have Genesis Climber.
Mospeada? I don't even
know. Mospeada?
Sure.
I have no idea. That was in 83 to 84. So those were the 3 that kind of came together. I know we said we weren't doing combiners, but obviously this seems like it's definitely
there's
combiner.
like a meta combiner when you combine 3 different series into one that you get Robotech and Macross.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's Robotech. Super brief history and background. So don't freak out if we haven't touched on like every bit of minutia for your most favorite mecha series ever. As for Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, it is also a 1985 Japanese television anime series, the second installment in the Gundam franchise and a sequel to the original Mobile Suit Gundam. The show was created and directed by Yoshiyuki Tomino, with character designs by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, while the series' mechanical designs is split among Kunio Akawara, Mamoru Nagano, and Kazumi Fujita. The series was originally aired on Nagoya Broadcasting Network and its sister ANN stations between 1985 and 1986. Between 2005 and 2006, the series was reproduced and compiled into a movie trilogy, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, A New Translation. Though still directed by Tomino, it involved many changes in the original storyline. So yeah, again, like Sean mentioned, we're just watching the first episode of both of these tonight. So these things have a very long and complicated and deep history. We are just barely going to scratch the armored surface of both of those tonight. So if we don't really dig into this stuff, just kind of give us a break because there's a lot more out there than we're going to touch on tonight.
And also, as we were mentioning sort of about the seating, for all of this, we have watched episode 1,
Right.
season 1
Right.
of all of these shows to gain a baseline for everything so
Yeah.
that we have some way of being able to do a general, unbiased comparison. Because I guarantee if we picked your favorite episode, you, the listener listening right now, we'd probably have a baller time and be like, this show fucking rocks.
Yeah.
But we kind of also have to make sure that we can level the playing field a little bit. So.
Yeah, and another reason we do that too is because one of our topics is like, mech design, the characters, how well are they introduced, how well are they pulled off, the battles, like is there a decent enough level of action and enough interesting stuff to get us to watch the rest of the series. So yeah, it's not going to be the best episode of that series run, but it's going to be a great kind of comparison level for us to be able to evenly compare each of these series to each other. At least that's our excuse.
I don't know. I mean, if you've got 1,000 different versions of Gundam,
Yeah.
I would think by this point you'd be able to fucking knock it out of the park with a pilot episode. True. You would think.
Well, this was the second series. We will, I believe, be talking about at least one more Gundam.
Yeah, we've got one more Gundam. We do have one more Gundam.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna give that 100 out of 25 right now because
oh Jesus,
I don't even care. It's like my favorite thing ever.
But with Robotech, also being sort of this amalgamate of 3 different shows, you would think that between the 3 different shows, it'd be like, guys, we're gonna nail this this pilot episode. If
I'm curious to see who comes out on top here this week. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let me get into a little bit of the synopsis.
Yeah, talking Robotech. What's it about?
About Robotech.
Yeah.
Robotech in the series, Robotechnology refers to the scientific advances discovered in an alien starship that crashed on the South Pacific island, which is also called Macross Island.
Right.
With this technology, Earth developed robotic technologies such as transformable mecha to fight 3 successive extraterrestrial invasions. This is also fun too because they don't mention at all the fact that there was a huge domestic fight. More on that in a bit.
Yeah, they kind of gloss over that a little bit.
We could just gloss over
just a little. We'll get to that. Yeah.
So the first Robotech War, the Macross Saga, concerns humanity's discovery of a crashed alien ship and the subsequent battles against a race of giant warriors called the
Zentradi.
Is it the Zentradi?
I think Zentradi.
I thought it was Zentradi. So cool. So we got Zentradi, who have been sent to retrieve the ship for reasons unknown.
Dun dun dun.
Dun.
Yeah, that's a pretty good setup. Now here's the one for Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Here we go. Set in the year Universal Century, or UC, 0087, 8 years after the events of Mobile Suit Gundam, 0079, the series follows a rebel group called the Anti-Earth Union Group, or that, did they say like AUG?
Yeah, they said like AUG.
AUG? Like, come on.
AUG guys.
AU guys. So the AU guys, as they try to defeat the Titans. So it's AU guys versus Titans. An elite task force of the Earth Federation designed to hunt down Xeon remnants, who are basically like resistance fighters, but which ruthlessly kills anyone demanding equal rights for the space citizens in cold blood. The story of Zeta Gundam is told through the viewpoint of Camille Biden, niece of Joe Biden, a civilian teenager and amateur mobile suit pilot whose parents are engineers working for the Earth Federation and the Titans.
Oh man, we should also get into our first correction.
Which one? We've made a lot of mistakes already.
We should also say that Camille was not, in fact, an actual character on the Cosby Show. It was Bill Cosby's actual wife was named Camille.
Oh, I had no clue. I was like, that doesn't Camille Huxtable doesn't sound right.
It dawned on me 2 seconds ago. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's Claire Huxtable, and then it was
Claire.
like, yeah, it is. It is, man.
Yeah, and second correction, it was actually Camille Cosby in real life who piloted a mobile suit during the galactic year of our Lord 0087.
Look, in
Anno
this
Dominus,
time,
whatever it was.
Anno Dominus.
Yeah, sure.
In this time where fake news is prevalent and Bill Cosby is, in the public news all the time.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a cabinet position, to be honest with you.
I'm honestly, I don't understand.
He might by the time you're listening to
this. He's not. It could happen.
It might happen.
I just want to say, I want to dispel any myths about Bill Cosby that I can, first and foremost.
Listen, 100% of what you hear on Saturday morning cartoons is going to be at least 100% accurate, plus or minus 2%.
That's a variance that I think that everybody can deal with.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
No fake news here.
Nope. Just armchair theories about cartoons.
Just like how Camille is the niece of Joe Biden.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's kind of like a little in joke. Nothing to do with Joe Biden. But the fact that Camille is a feminine name, but in this case, the character is actually male. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Spoiler alert. A little tease for you guys going into it. All right, buddy. Where do we normally start these things at?
Oh man,
we're
let's
kind of jumping in here, but where do you want to start?
start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Okay.
We could do Sound of Music right now. Yeah, let's start with the theme song.
All right. So what we're going to do here is for about 5 minutes, we're going to roll through each of the categories for each of the cartoons, do a little back and forth, and then score it at the end of those 5 minutes. Sean might say something that convinces me to change my score and vice versa, so we're kind of going to hash it out and see how it all shakes out at the end. But now we've got theme song, Robotech. What are your thoughts?
Very patriotic.
Now, what are you talking, the Japanese or the Americanized one? Because we've got both versions for both shows.
I'm talking the American version.
Okay, cool.
Talking American version, pretty patriotic.
Yep.
I kind of almost had like a Starship Trooper feel to it for like 2 seconds. I was waiting for the like, do you want to know more? And I was like, yeah, I do. I legitimately want to know everything about the series because I'm at a loss for words. So, it was just challenging because, if we're drawing the comparison over everything for the entire month, there is zero exposition in this. Whereas last week we had a certain theme song that had, I think for ninja robots, that had a lot of setup that filled in a lot of those gaps and kind of allowed us to seamlessly work into that world. This really not so much. You see sort of some planes, you see sort of some half plane, half mecha, and then at the very end you see like kind of a mecha, and you're just like, all right. You see a bunch of stuff kind of riding around, and for the second week in a row, we get weird robots that are long legs with tiny little bodies.
Yeah, that was weird to have like second kind of chicken walker robots. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the second week that we've had a chicken walker robot, similar to whatever the training exercise they used for ninja robots last week. And so I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed that chicken robots is a reoccurring theme for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. So if you're playing Mecha Bingo at home, check off chicken robot because we got them.
Yeah.
Again.
Exactly. I felt that this was actually pretty long-winded. I felt like this theme song, for not having any exposition at all, or really kind of filling in who the villains were, because you don't see the villains really in this at all. You just simply see the heroes, and then at some point there's a spaceship that has a giant cannon that shoots stuff into the sky, which, I don't know, spoiler alert, maybe pull that punch back a little bit, because that's a kind of a cool thing that you ruin.
Save that one.
Yeah, you ruin that right away. That evidently shoots into the sky, and evidently in lunar orbit, there's a Pokemon that looks like Metapod that it just explodes and rips apart. And
that's
so
how
you're
all
like,
Pokemon were originally made, actually, from the guts and entrails of an exploded Metapod in orbit.
Jesus.
That's why you got to find them all and put them back together.
Catch them all.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was good, but I don't feel like it was anything special.
Well, did you listen to the Japanese version too?
I did not.
Oh, okay, cool. So for me, I'll agree with you. The Americanized song, it's fine. It was just instrumental. There were no lyrics or dialogue or anything like that. No exposition. It was very patriotic, and then got kind of militaristic, kind of a military march for a while. It got a little Star Trek-y for me, so I didn't quite get the Starship Troopers as much. I get kind of the Star Trek, but if you combine those two things together, then yeah, it's kind of like space military, which is Starship Troopers. So it does work. For me, though, the Japanese song was like James Bond meets mecha. It was just like a really sexy way to do like a mecha theme song that was kind of like, it's kind of like smooth and just like, it was weird. I was like, this could be like the theme song to a Japanese James Bond movie, which is really strange. I would also like to see Japanese James Bond mecha pilot series. Totally on board for that. I actually really like the visuals. I like that they just showed like various human pilots. You didn't know who they were yet, but they showed the characters off. And then they showed kind of the transition from fighter plane to weird configuration hybrid. A.5, if that makes any sense. And then configuration B, which was like the full mecha thing at the end.
Yeah, you gotta pull down on the B lever.
Yeah, you gotta like pull real hard, dum-dum. Don't you know how to go to configuration B? So anyway, you shifted into that, and that was cool because it was like, okay, I got the pilots, I've got the mech that they're flying. That's kind of cool. So actually, I enjoyed the Japanese song much more than the American one, but the American one was fine. So what did you score this one?
I gave this a 2.
Holy crap, I gave it a 4. Mostly because of the Japanese version. If it was the American song, I'd be like, that's fine. It's probably a 3. It's kind of average standard.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like anything really jumped out at me in this. I don't feel like I had a good understanding of good and evil in this.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that either as far as like an intro to the show, but much like James Bond kind of sets the mood and the tone for it.
Okay.
I was kind of like, okay, I can dig this. This is kind of interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went with a 2.
Well, the 2, fair enough. All right, so 4 for me and a 2 for Sean. Starting off great, buddy. All right, you want to get into theme song for Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam? Also 2 versions.
Yeah. Right. So I just watched, I believe, the American version.
You jingoist commie bastard.
I know. So I felt like this was what was challenging about this. I felt that this gave you a better idea of who was good and who was bad.
Okay.
In terms of what was there, I feel like you had like the same kind of rousing patriotic music that you had from the other show, from Robotech.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it had the same exact character design that it showed you.
It was really close. I mean, it was the same year.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, I felt like the blonde gentleman that they showed in both had the exact same haircut.
But there's a very different distinction in the Gundam version.
Oh, what is it?
His sweet, sweet sunglasses.
Oh my god.
It's actually pretty important when it comes to like the show, kind of. I'll get into that later once we get to the characters, because I had to do some research. You don't know this from watching the show. I had to do some research to figure out who this guy was, but go ahead.
Okay. I kind of felt that it was on the same level. I think the only reason for me it was on the same level as the Robotech theme song. I think the only thing that I enjoyed about this more was that you had a very clear indication of who was good and who was evil in this, as well as you got a little bit more time. I don't know. I like the fact, and this is what's challenging. I like the fact the Macross mechs have the 3 different transformation states, maybe even a 4th transformation state, I think, in terms of like how the jet operates.
Yeah.
But I think
yeah. If they have like the wings out versus the wings back kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. For the jet fighter. I thought for this though, you got a lot more face time with the white, or like the main Gundam that you saw that's in this, and I was just like, oh, that's what I'm here to see. I feel like in the Macross one, like you didn't really get that much of it, and it was kind of like long and belabored, and you finally got to the point. I felt like with this one, it was just like, oh no, here's what you came to see. Yeah. We're gonna give it to you.
We're gonna send it right out of the screen.
X gonna give it to you, and I was like, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. Show me the thing.
Show me the thing. Actually, so in this version, I like the Americanized version better than the Japanese version. So the Japanese version was kind of poppy lyrics. It kind of had like a little bit of a jazzy beat, a little bit of a groove to it, but it wasn't as effective. It just seemed more of like a radio song with some visuals to it. The Americanized version was pretty cool. It had like a good like driving kind of beat to it, and then it turned more patriotic. There were no lyrics to that, but it had a good just beat, and it went with the visuals fairly well. There's a great reveal of the Gundam and some of the other mobile suits as well as the human characters, and then some other just like random critters that they're thrown in, and I don't know why. Just like weird space pets. I don't know what that is. I love the montages. So there's a putting on sunglasses montage for the blonde guy.
Yeah.
And there's a great walking through space montage. Just like you see your character just walking through like the vast emptiness of space. That was great. But it also had some teases of like space battles and stuff too. So there wasn't a lot of context, but it was just like, here's a Gundam. They're awesome. They're going to have space battles. That's what we promise. So it sounds like I actually like that one better, but I only gave this one a 3.
I gave this a 3 as well.
Okay. I think we're good with 3. It's weird though that I got like more excited about this, but I gave the other one a higher score. And I don't know why. I think because Sexy James Bond meets Mecha. I think that did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's like, it's hard because having these conversations, I'm now beginning to like doubt what my scores were.
Well, that's the reason we do this though, because like if I convince you, if I'm like super persuasive or vice versa,
I know.
Feel free to change it and make everything in Gundam a 5 is fine. Totally.
But we're both on 3s, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, we're all right.
So I'm good to go.
All right, so let's hop on back to Robotech, and we watched the first episode. This one is titled Booby Trap, which is kind of a misnomer. But let's get into the plot. Kind of a misnomer. Let's get into the plot of this sucker.
That's like if Dave, if you would just be like, I've committed murder, and I was just like, what did you do? And you're just like, I ate an entire tub of ice cream. And I'd be like, that's a misnomer. Like, naming your episode Booby Trap.
I murdered my willpower.
But like, in this, naming it Booby Trap, and there's it's not even like a booby trap. It's just like self-defense.
No, it's just like we were too dumb to figure this thing out. It must be a booty trap. No.
Yeah. Oh, no. We've had 10 years to dick around in this alien technology. We still know jack shit.
You just done fucked up. All right, so let's hop into the plot here. We're not going to do a breakdown of the entire episode. We're just kind of talk about the major points and stuff that jumped out at us and how that affected our watch of Booby Trap and how how effective we think it was. So we're back in 1999?
Yeah.
On Macross Island.
I love this. I love it when things are dated
Meanwhile, in the year 1999.
Yeah, exactly. I love this, like when they date themselves on these things to either think that we weren't going to make it through Y2K, or they were just like, oh yeah, like probably in 1999 an alien starship will crash on
just
a Macross Island.
Just like destroy local cities due to their shockwave. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
But I did like where they went with this, though, because it was just like you could normally start a series like this and just be like, aliens crash landed, and now we have like an alien occupation or we have an alien invasion. They didn't do any of that. Like the whole alien crew was just like, I don't know where they are.
I don't know where they are.
The way that the ship crashed and the how advanced it was, all the technology was pretty much like ship shape inside. So humanity, which here's the part that you were alluding to earlier, they kind of gloss over that for like years they've been in global war. Like everybody's been at war. And then this alien ship crash lands and they're like, maybe stop killing each other for a second. Let's check this shit out, see what we can come up with, and then we'll get back to killing each other later. But let's figure this shit out first. I kind of like the idea that they all came together and worked on it though, right?
Yeah. No, I love it that an alien attack can stop a global war, allowing governments to come together and actually get stuff done.
Hey, whatever it takes.
I'm kind of jealous of the world that they live in.
Yeah, because it wasn't even an attack. That's the other thing. It just crashed. It's just a ship that crashed.
Yeah.
There were no aliens that came out. There was damage done, but not intentionally. It was just a byproduct of the thing crashing through the atmosphere.
I mean, I think the idea or the novelty of the world being like, you know what, we should probably all bond together and figure this crap out.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really nice, and I think it's unobtainable. Yeah. Because let's say this. If we had an alien technology, all right, that crashed in the United States, we would not share a single thing. We would not allow that technology to go outside of anybody else's, like out of our purview. Like we would maintain dominion over that alien technology and just be like, yeah, fuck you. We're going to figure this out. I feel like if it landed anywhere else in the world, we're just going to be like, well, we're now going to take over that country. And people are going to be like,
the country's ours now. Yeah. Did you see Arrival by any chance?
I didn't.
Fuck, you got to go see it. I don't know if by the time you guys are listening to it, it won any Oscars that it deserved to win. It probably didn't. But regardless, definitely go watch that because it actually kind of plays out this scenario. But
does it?
But differently, because it's like an alien ship doesn't crash land. They purposefully land in a variety of different places all around the world. So like 10 kind of out of the way locations or 12, I think, in different developed and developing nations. And it's really interesting the way the politics kind of play out. That's all I'll say. Huh. Definitely worth a watch. Okay. But yeah, I thought for Robotech, that was a really interesting way to start this thing. And the best part about it, all that exposition's laid out in the first few minutes of the show.
I loved it.
And it was great.
I loved it.
It's just like, tell me what I need to know, and then we can move on. Great.
You got a Cliff Notes version, a crash course, and everything that you need to know within the first 3 minutes. And then they were just like, and now we're going to bring in these weird pilots.
Yeah.
And you're like, great, I like it.
Yeah. So just like high level, what are these pilots about? Why are they there? What are we doing here?
Because of as we mentioned, they have these planes that can kind of transform into these different states, which is like plane, fighter jet, sort of hybrid robot, and then sort of giant mecha. Yeah. They are kind of responsible for, and this is the group of people who have kind of come together around the crash site, built up an entire city together. They've learned, they understand some of the technology,
right.
And they've been training on how to use it and how to use some of these planes with the idea that if there ever is an attack, that now they know how to defend themselves with better, more capable weapons.
Well, and guess what? Yeah.
That attack's coming. Attack's coming.
There's some other aliens up to no good, and we don't know why. They're just tall and blue-skinned, and they got metal faces. But other than that, we have
a lot of reverb.
And a lot of reverb.
A lot of reverb in the mouth.
And clearly voice. From a different series, because there were some times where it was just like, and now this thing up here. It's like, wait,
Yep.
that we've never seen anything like that for the last 20 minutes. So this episode closes out with the freshly christened Earth forces kind of trying to repel the attacks of these new invaders, and it doesn't go great, but at least there looks like there's some hope. With some of these pilots. Anything else before we go to the score for this one?
No.
So what did you think about the plot of this one?
I thought this was a 4.
I gave it a 4 as well. I thought it was really
Nice.
interesting. It was novel. It was kind of ripe for a lot more exploration in the future. Yeah.
And this is also, we should mention, all of Robotech is on Netflix.
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys can get at this right now.
Yeah.
This is so accessible.
It is
and
the dubbed version, but yeah.
But I will say this, because we did dub versions last week too. We did one dub and one undub.
Right.
The dub for this is very well done.
Yeah, it's not like last week where it's like a chore to actually have to listen to it. It's really well done. Some stuff is lost in translation, but it's not like bad dubbing. It's just lost in translation. Yeah, so if Robotech really laid out the story for the plot for us, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam throws you in without any sort of help whatsoever. So what could you kind of glean from this thing? And then I will smooth out some of the rough parts with some background research as we go. But don't let that affect your score. I'd stick with what your original score was.
Yeah, I'm not going to, trust me. I have no idea.
Okay, good.
I really, like, there are parts of this where I'm just like, we're at a school and this kid is like skipping class, and then he gets backhanded and then he fights people, and then and this is how fucked up this is.
Yeah.
This is like a principal that like backhands this kid and it goes into slow motion and nobody does a fucking thing about it.
No.
Everybody's just like, oh, well, he probably deserves it. Camille probably was asking for it. Camille. He jumps in a car. This
girl goes with him.
This girl goes with him, and this is after an unnecessary amount of smooth jazz that's playing in the background
over the whole thing, just like bad elevator music,
like just Kenny G style, like smooth jazz.
Some Wynton Marsalis up in this piece,
with like weird panning shots of like their legs, as they're running, as like filler or just to show motion. I don't know. How about the fact that they're just running and they have intent to go somewhere? Didn't seem to be enough for this. Seemed to be a lot of things that were in here. We get suddenly they're up at a space station.
Yeah. So also while all this is going on, the kid's basically in like a military academy, blah blah blah. While this is going on, there's like a trio of pilots up in space in 3 different mobile suits, and they're just like, I want to say they're doing maneuvers, but they're weirdly just holding hands in space.
They're holding hands as robots. I didn't know what was going on. I honestly thought that this was a robotic love story for 2 seconds.
It's a robot romance.
Like, well, I mean, I'm not going to say no to whatever they're doing.
For this.
I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to watch.
Yeah.
We get a part where, as we've mentioned, Camille is a boy. He is male.
Right. Don't let that confuse you.
He has potentially a female name.
Yep.
Or at least what everybody else around him considers to be a female name.
Yep.
A member of a piloting squad called the Titans insult him. He leaps over like a
turnstile thing,
like a turnstile queue to get in to punch this guy so hard that I forgot for 2 seconds that there was zero gravity. Because the punch knocked him over the turnstile again, and I was like, "That's one hell of a fucking punch."
Yeah, when you get launched back to the other side of the room,
that kid murdered him, and then I was like, "Oh no, that's how physics." That's how that works.
In turn, Camille just about gets murdered because he like picked a fight with the leader of like 4 other guys, essentially.
Right.
So they essentially just hold him down and kick him in the face in slow motion.
Yeah. And as we're mentioning, this lead Titan guy that kicks him in between, like with a narrow toe boot, kix him right between the eyebrows and knocks him out. He cold. Okay, and he just goes, you're a woman with a man's name. A man knows how to take his lumps. And I was like, you know what? A man also knows when not to kick a child that's being held down on the ground by military police.
In the face. Yeah.
There were so many conflicts in this episode. I didn't know what was the actual main conflict. This was a petulant dick-faced kid, all right,
Camille.
who he could have taken a couple deep breaths. All right, he's in a military school. He should have done some countdown breathing. He could have done some military breathing. Chilled the fuck out. Yeah. Pretty sure that this kid gets bullied about this every day, but now for some reason he's up in space and he wants to fight a Titan.
He could have just garroted the guy later on. I don't know why he went all. He should have just gone stealth with it.
I have no idea. Like this was just unnecessary stuff.
Well, look, we've got that. Like that's so now Camille is in like military police custody, and there's a weird thing that happens where like a lawyer seems to come in and break him out, but then because on like behalf of his mom. But then because Camille's still a dick and like punches the guard in the face, then they all just attack him again, smash him in the face with a baton, and then hold him prisoner anyway. And then we'll get to what happens. But it's just like what a weird sequence of events. He's like, I did a favor for your mom. You're a jerk. You should stay here forever. It's just like, hold on, what the hell's going on?
What the fuck is going on?
And that's not even touching the other stuff that's going on in this episode.
This is like you have to presumably this is the good guy. This is the kid that you're supposed to be rooting for. Right. And I want to say I know that there's something that happens and I'm not gonna get into it just yet. But you have to understand that at this point he leaves this base after punching these guards again. He steals a Jeep, abandons the Jeep.
Well, after crashing through the gates,
breaks
of
through
the military place. Yep.
Right. Breaks through these gates. He abandons and jumps, does a controlled roll
into
out of
forest.
the Jeep into the forest, stops, and then just has a moment where he goes, "What have I done?
What have I done?
What's going to happen?"
How do I reach these gates?
Like you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Like this is how you have beat up everybody in space.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize at that point that they had transported him back down to Earth.
Well, I think he was actually on his colony. So he's in a place called Green Noah. I think it's where he grows up. It's a Federation colony, I think, that's run or protected by the Titans. So this is where a lot of this backstory stuff comes in, right? Which this show doesn't give you any of it. It's just like, here's some people doing stuff, figure it the fuck out, and you just have no idea what's going on. There's a whole nother side thing where the people who are in space in the mobile suits, one of them, who goes by the name of Lieutenant Quattro, which, spoiler alert, is not his real name. He's actually a character from the original series who people, if you're familiar with it, would know. And he plays a big role in the rest of the series. But essentially, he breaks into this colony and gets some spy pictures of a Mark II Gundam. So there is both a production facility, a production dock, construction for Gundams, and also a Mark II Gundam that's kind of guarding this place. He gets spy pictures of it, and then he zooms the fuck out of there and gets back into his own mobile suit and takes off. And then at the end of the whole thing, they're hanging out in space, and they're like, hey, why don't we call in this thing for help? And they shoot a flare. They signal back to a waiting battleship. The battleship launches this beam laser cannon and then just blows up some sort of thing in space that I have no clue what the fuck it was because we never saw it before. It's such a mindfuck of a episode because you have no idea what's going on, who's doing what, why they're doing the things that they're doing, or even what they're trying to accomplish. So kind of a mess as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like even if you had watched the entire series before, it wouldn't be quite as easy to feel to pick who's doing what and why they're doing it. So would you rank the plot of this thing? I gave it a 2
I gave it a 2
because I had no clue what was going on. And like I told Sean earlier, I spent as much time watching the episode as I did researching what the hell was going on. Which is fine. I mean, it's fine if you really want to dig into a show. It's just not set up to be friendly to new viewers, essentially. All right. So, importantly, let's talk about some of the characters before we get into the mechs. So, let's hop on back to Robotech and talk about some of the people we're introduced to. So, who do you want to talk about first?
You know what? I'm going to talk holistically for 2 seconds and say this had a diverse cast of characters. We had men, we had women, we had a couple people of color that were in this. It was very nice to see because I know that these both came out at the same exact time. We actually had a decent amount of diversity that was in this. I really appreciate that. I was a big fan of that.
I think it's probably because it came from 3 different series.
Right. I will say that this you're correct. I will say that this show is also host to some of the worst facial hair I've ever seen on characters
ever. What's going on with some of these stashes, man?
Who was the one guy in the car with the general at the beginning that he only had little tiny tufts on like but it was over the corner of his mouth, and that was it. And that was it. He just had little tiny little tips.
So there's Captain Glovel, who's kind of this like reluctant military hero. He's in charge of the Macross project, and he's a little clumsy. He's weirdly Russian, as it's revealed later on, which made zero sense.
But full on
Tom Selleck
like
stash.
Tom Selleck stash.
The other guy he's riding with is like some
good.
political leader. I'm sure he's probably like the mayor or the governor of the island or whatever. He's just got a little tufts.
Worst facial hair.
Little
tufts. I'm gonna call him
Mayor
Little
Tufts. All right.
Male Little
How about
Tufts.
some ladies? Let's talk about some ladies. Just for fun.
We have, and you see this in the intro, in the theme song.
The hair flip.
And then they have the animation in the hair flip. Thank you.
Lisa.
Oh my God. Lisa's hair flip in this is so
It's an
aggressive.
hair flip.
That hair flip communicates everything that I needed to know about
how she got
her.
the job.
That and the fact that her character design, she has very little beady eyes. And I'm not saying that that's like indicative of anything or sort of what was going on, but I was like, this is a woman who is not going to take
She's not
your
taking
fucking
shit
shit
from you, Claudia,
today.
rolling in at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
Who rolls in at
Claudia.
4 a.m? And then that's considered late. I don't know what their schedule is that they're running, or even what they're really doing.
But Dave, you have to be married to this ship.
She was out banging pilots until 3:38 8 a.m. Yeah, so the ladies are working sort of like, it seems like a communications tower, right? So they're working like the communications.
They were communications and intelligence.
Which is pretty cool. And honestly, they got to talk to each other, not about a guy, not about the really the plot of the episode. They were just kind of talking about like kind of normal, like everyday work stuff. It just happened to be in like a
Bechdel test.
Pass. Good job, Robotech. Macross Saga. It was interesting to hear that because that's just like not something you see on cartoons ever. We've never talked about this on the show before because it's never happened. It probably will never do it again. But it was pretty cool to just see like Claudia and Lisa just having like a normal workplace conversation that had nothing to do with anything. So, all right, what about the dudes?
We get introduced to two main dudes. We get Rick Hunter, winner of amateur flying contest for the last 8 years in a row. Not a soldier, but when you finally see how short he is by comparison to his other friend Roy is evidently enormous, or Rick is
I think Rick's just young, younger,
like
just
so young,
just smaller. I don't know.
What's the sexual relationship?
Well, it's weird because they're like friends, because and then they say brothers, and then they have that weird like that memory.
They
sequence.
have that weird kind of like memory, like where like he turns around
like
in
flying
sort of
biplanes in a flying circus somewhere, and
it's a golden biplane, and he looks around and he kind of like winks at him to say like, holy shit,
what's up, bros?
Yeah,
it's kind of they kind of got a Top Gun thing going on, so they got a bit of an Iceman and Maverick thing going on. So a little bit of a rivalry, a little bit of a brotherhood, a little bit of a homoerotic volleyball playing relationship. In the bonus scenes, I think they get greased down and wear their Speedos and play volleyball for like an extended montage. That's fun to watch.
Double up.
Rick Hunter also has a blue cravat and an orange jumpsuit, which I think is nice to mention.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know, but we get it. We get a really good idea that, like, as you mentioned, they have this dynamic in their relationship. They, weirdly are really cool with kind of like how they're talking with one another, where it can be kind of boisterous. Like they can like friends, like they give each other a little bit of shit. But then also at the same time, it's just like, hey, you actually want to sit in one of these planes? You want to go
what
up?
else they're cool with? Like someone who's never had any military training in a fighter jet mecha machine before, just like jump on in, kid, and just join the battle. Why not? Super cool with that. Yeah. That seems fine. Thanks, Lisa.
After we get an entire series of exposition from Rick where he's just like, I don't understand why you're like in the military. Like, you had to kill people. Yeah. I could never do that. It's just like, all right, well,
I'm a fighter pilot now.
He kind of fought for your freedom, and now suddenly you're a fighter pilot. I'm just like, hey, pot, kettle's on line 1. Calling you black.
Okay, the only other characters that we're kind of introduced to are the bad guys, the Zentrades. Very briefly.
Zentradi, the jaundice
Zentradi's
helmet guy.
Commander Breetai, I believe was his name. Breetai. He's like a blue-skinned fella with a helmet that covers like half of his face. That's how you know he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That and the insane amount of distortion and reverb that's in his voice.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Fun character design. It didn't look like it was something where, because we see this every once in a while. I mean, just most notably, I'm reminded of like the new DreamWorks Voltron, where like all of the bad guys are identical to one another. You know, unless they don't have a helmet on.
They're either robots,
you know, they're all
purple dudes.
They're like they're kind of like the bats on G.I. Joe. And so in this case, they weren't like that. It seemed like there was a weird variety of a bunch of like bizarre miscreants that you were just like, okay, cool. Like I'm on board with this. This seems interesting. I haven't seen this before. Regardless of the very short period of time that we see them, I was still kind of intrigued by what else
and a nice touch,
there.
I mean, just for the villains that are there briefly. So, what do you rank the characters of Robotech in this episode?
I'm giving this a 4.
I gave it a 4 as well, so we're on the same page.
Boom.
Yeah, we're doing so good. All right, let's hop on down to the characters of Gundam, which I probably have to change my score on this one, but what do you think? First of all, for their designs, I would say they're also kind of like that same 80s design. I found them to be a bit more like detailed and slightly more realistic than Robotech for the most part. Some not so much, but others they really like certain, when they focused on the mobile suit pilots, when they focused on Quattro in his mobile suit, there was actually a lot more attention to detail. His movements, he has the sequence where he's like breaking into the colony and he's got it kind of in like a 0G thing. There was a lot more like attention to detail to his movements. It wasn't kind of that like panning motion where it was just like there's legs running. Like they showed every individual like coil and movement that he did. So I appreciated that.
Right.
We've talked about Camille. What do you know about Camille? He's got some interesting, beyond his weird quirks about fighting and getting his face kicked in.
Sure. The fact that he looks like Ranma from Ranma Half.
Yeah.
Which is fun because that's a character that actually is a man or a woman. And in this case, it just seems like there's a weird kind of fluid gender identity problem that he's not addressing.
Yeah, no. He's just fighting. He's fighting around the world. That's about it.
Yeah.
He's like obsessed with mobile suits, which we kind of find out. He kind of knows the history of Mobile Suit Gundam. So he knows like the previous series and he makes connections between that series and this one, which is for people who have never watched the original series, you just have no clue what he's talking about or what's going on or why he's so obsessed with this stuff. Super quick to pick a fight. He also, here's a fun fact, he won the year's junior mobile suit tournament, and he's the champion of the whatever the Homo Avis air gliding tournament is 2 years in a row. So that's a neat thing for him.
He's a perfect candidate for military duty.
Boy.
I thought that I to compare this to Robotech, we don't have our villains that are in this are human. So we don't really have anything other than human. And as you mentioned, like with some of those pilots and some of those scenes that we had, there's a little bit more attention to detail. I don't really feel like there was zero diversity in this whatsoever. And I felt like every once in a while when there were the fight scenes, it was a little more kind of like comedically animated sometimes that I wanted. Like you mentioned the slow kick to the head. Like we have the slow slap from the teacher. Like it just seemed like those things were accentuated, and that's not character design.
That's more for battles, and we'll talk about
style
that
and
too,
and like the pacing of the episode itself. But for some reason, I was just like, it didn't make sense to me. There were moments like when like the teacher and stuff like that, that's in the very beginning, like when he's yelling at him, like his head gets weirdly big, kind of like for 2 seconds, and like his mouth drops down a little bit. Like so, where you're saying that there were moments where it seemed a little bit more detailed, I also felt that there were moments that were in this that were like very, very brief, which didn't seem to follow suit with anything else that was happening, where it was very exaggerated comic effect. And I was like, I don't understand why you guys are kind of trying to fight yourself on this. It didn't make a lot of sense.
Did you like feel any kind of connection to any of these characters though? Because Camille was like...
Absolutely. I didn't give a shit about anybody who was in this show to this point.
I found Quattro a little more interesting though, because in the beginning he's just holding hands with robots in space, which is weird, but whatever. But then when he's like breaking into the colony and he's taking pictures, you don't really know what his deal is, and he
that was the only cool sequence of the
Yeah.
entire episode. Everything that happened with Camille, I just was funny because like I could not care less. And I say it was funny because like this kid is being an asshole, and then he's just getting his ass handed to him the entire time, and you're just like, well, yeah. I mean, I can see why this is happening. You're kind of a dick.
The only thing about that is I kind of want to know, just knowing like Gundam's pedigree, that they're actually usually fairly detailed and pretty complex with their stories and their backstories for their characters. So to me, when he does shit like that, I'm just like, okay, there's something to this kid. He's got a reason. I don't like him yet, but maybe I'll come to. But I like Quattro a lot more. So Quattro was just like, I kind of just want to watch his story. I don't know why he's blowing shit up left and right. I don't know why he's taking pictures of this stuff. I don't know why he's flying away from a Gundam. But I'm probably going to knock this down a peg. Anything else from characters here?
One final thing is that at the very end, we have this Mark II, or we have a Gundam that crashes into a building and kind of destroys a lot of stuff. This is what we were alluding to earlier. Like this moment allows Camille to escape, steal the Jeep, ram the fence, and then throw it into a bridge. In this moment, this pilot kind of comes out of the chest area of the Gundam and just looks, and he just goes, ugh, they're going to want more than a written apology, huh? And I rolled so hard at that. Yeah. And again, I know that these are dialogue and it's not design related, but in those moments I can't help but think to myself, like, I'm knocking you for this because this is unnecessary. Like, this just feels unnecessary. Everything in this episode we watched, except for Quattro's journey, felt unnecessary.
I did like, or rather I did not like, because I was watching that Gundam and I was just like, he looks like real clunky and real clumsy and I don't know what's going on. And then it's revealed that it's because of that pilot that's in there, that he's kind of just like, he's either incompetent or just doesn't give a shit. So I thought that was interesting but irritating at the same time. All right, so what'd you score these?
I gave this because I really liked the fact that Quattro's, that like I loved his sequence, and I felt that he carried it, and I felt that what he was doing was very mysterious. I gave it a 3.
I had originally given it a 4, but after comparing it again, it's down to a 3. So that's a change. So yeah, down to a 3. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk about mechas. Let's go back to
why
Robotech,
we're here.
The only reason we're here, and talk about the mechas, and not necessarily the chicken walkers, but the actual, like, human designs, borrowed alien technology, mecha configuration AB super jet fighters. What's up?
Yeah.
It's a disappointed side, not a great start.
This was hard because, like, for a majority of this, like, we didn't really get a mecha until the final, like, 30 seconds.
And it was honestly, like, the same as the intro. You kind of saw the same sequence.
Yeah, and so intro. I felt like we got more in the interstitials, like, for the coming back, like, going to and coming back from a cartoon, or from the, sorry. Yeah, exactly. So we got more from those commercial bumps and from the intro than we did from the actual episode. And so that was kind of disappointing. We sort of got that, the story of Rick kind of, going through and kind of understanding how to go into the different configurations when he's in the plane, and that there is the capability to do that. But I mean, you kind of already know that, so it's not like it's not like you're waiting for that big reveal. I was
waiting for it to happen. I did not think it was going to be like, oh, I've crashed this like $1 billion alien jet. Oh, well, I guess because I had no training and had no purpose being in this thing, maybe I'm just going to die. And then Lisa comes to the rescue.
He crashes this thing, and it's like it shows him going into configuration as he's wrecking into buildings, and he pauses and he goes, "Whew, can't believe I'm alive. Dude, you just killed everybody."
You like Superman smashing through buildings. But it was funny because like all he had to do to shift into quote unquote configuration B was to just like pull a lever. And it changes from like the jet mode to like this weird hybrid mode where it's kind of like it's got legs and arms but wings stick out, and then when he lands he's like the full humanoid mecha figure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really kind of a bummer that, we didn't really see the mecha until the very end. But I will say this, that, if like the design of everything that's there, because we don't get just the mecha, we also get we get this huge ship, this like starship that has crash landed. And this thing, is based on the technology that's
Right.
used for the mecha. And this thing is really fucking cool as well. And so I'm glad that we got to see it. It just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough
honestly,
for the
it
episode.
wasn't even a great tease for the first in a series. Like, it was I don't know, if you'd never seen that before, Transformers, I guess it was kind of a cool thing. But for me, it doesn't really ring true as much to Mecha, because Mecha is just, for me, it's just kind of like, here's the thing that was built to do a purpose. Get in this thing and go. It's cool if they have different configurations or whatever, but it felt like half Transformers, half mobile suit to me. And I was just kind of like, all right, that's cool. I like that it's versatile. It's pretty neat. But they didn't show me enough of it to like make it super cool. So, I don't know. What'd you score this one?
I give this a 2.
3, actually. Surprising.
I had a 3 originally, but through talking, I changed. I'm kind of just bummed that we just didn't get more.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately like the hazard of watching the first episode. But at the same time, I feel like, look, we know this is a mecha anime series, so give us something in the first episode that is going to like wow us and be like, definitely watching more of this shit, even if I see the same thing over and over again.
I think that they did for this show, but we'll get into it in the last and final category for Robotech.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to keep my 3, I think, mostly because I know what I'm giving the Gundam. So, okay, right. Let's hop on down to the Gundam and talk about that, because we get a good look at the Gundams, maybe not throughout the show, but in the intro, we get a good look at them. We get a good look at them in the interstitials, and then we get a decent look at it throughout the episode. And it's not from the perspective of our main character. So he's not flying a Gundam around. He's just punching people and stealing Jeeps and being terrible. But we do see a Gundam flying around. And this is, Hey, what's the title of this episode, by the way?
The Black Gundam.
So the narrator says the Black Gundam. Says it like that. Nobody ever calls this thing a Black Gundam. Nobody ever says the word black or even Gundam, I don't think.
Honestly, the way that the coloring looks on the Gundam, it looks more of kind of like a dark blue.
So the interesting thing there is this is a Mark II Gundam. So it is a next evolution of the series of Gundams that was in the first series, Mobile Suit Gundam. So it's kind of the next step in that evolution. I think from reading some of the background stuff, it's like it's got some lighter armor, so I guess it can move faster, but it's not quite as doesn't take quite as much damage. None of that's explained in this episode. But what's interesting is there are 2 different color configurations. So the darker colored one is for the Earth Federation's Titan team, and then they have a lighter colored one, which we actually see in like the interstitials and the introduction
theme song,
and that's for the AWEG, whatever it was. Anti-Earth.
The AUG,
yeah, that.
Yeah.
So they actually have like a lighter version of that looks closer to the one from the original series. So I thought that was kind of neat. But again, that's all background stuff. You don't learn any of that stuff here. You just kind of see. The cool thing I'll say is we do see the Mark II, but we also see other mobile suits. Like Quattro has a cool one. It's kind of like this big bulky thing, red, like crimson. It looks like it can take some punishment and deal some out too. There's some other mobile suits that kind of pop up here and there. What did you think of these? Because I could talk about these things all day.
The weird
just
mobile
any
suits?
of the mobile suits, and then specifically the Gundam.
I really liked the mobile suit that Quattro had. I love the fact that when he's breaking in, it has like a spider, like it shoots like a spider, like a Spider-Man style thing, and it solidifies on 2 of the guys that are in a hangar, and it like attaches them to a wall. Hang out. Yeah, he's like, hey, just conserve your air until somebody comes to catch you. It just kind of seemed like, we see the Black Gundam, the Mark II, very, very quickly. It looks intimidating. It looks fun. It's kind of a nice tease. But you really see more of Quattro's sort of a space love odyssey that he has holding hands with another Gundam.
Well, just another mobile suit.
That was a little with another mobile suit. Sorry, with another mobile suit, which was kind of interesting. And so I feel like you got a decent amount from Quattro and sort of what was available, like capable of these mobile suits. You got a really nice robotic, romantic relationship for some reason, unbeknownst to me.
Unbeknownst to everybody.
Eyebrows raised. So just I'm looking for that. I'm looking for Gundam after
You're looking to feel a little
dark.
tingle? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
There's a
That was some very weird dialogue
I got to
choice.
tell you, because that's one thing I had to look up.
Uncomfortable.
So it's Quattro, and he's like, "What's that tingling? Is it Amuro Ray? Could it be Lala Soon?" And that sounds like garbage to anyone who has not watched the series. It just sounds like word soup. Like, it doesn't sound like anything. Amuro Ray is the protagonist from the original series. So it's the original pilot of the original Gundam. Lala Soon was kind of like his romantic entanglement from that series. So both of those characters kind of show up in different ways. But when he says that all in a string of words, you're just like, what? Because none of it makes any sense.
None of it.
I will say I did love watching him fly around sort of like that one colony in his little jetpack and avoid the Gundam. It's a rare thing to see a Gundam look this clumsy, look this inept, and not be able to actually like win the fight. Because this thing is flying around and trying to chase a much smaller target, as Quattro says. And he's literally just like firing what's called a Vulcan, like a rotating machine gun kind of thing, and just like blowing up parts of the colony. And he's like, using your Vulcan in here, like you don't care about any of your colonists. It's like a weird kind of back and forth. But I just love that you get to see the Gundam in action, but it does not have a competent pilot behind the wheel. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But I love seeing a Gundam in action. I just love the design of these things. I think it's very iconic. Stands apart from pretty much any other mecha or mobile suit anime out there. And for me, it was just awesome to see that again. What did you rank this one?
I gave
it a 5 because Gundam. Have to.
Ugh.
I'm gonna do the same thing for Wing when we eventually watch it. I wish I could give Wing a 6, but I just love him. What was this again? A 3? He said.
I said a 3
to a 5. Nothing. Everything's fine. All right, let's head on back to Robotech for our final category of the night. We're gonna talk action. We're gonna talk battles. We're gonna you got to give us something here to like get into the story. So what's up with the battles in Robotech?
This did a great job with the battle. This is a battle that takes place sort of on Earth. It also takes place like in lunar orbit, outside of Earth's orbit. There is a massive scale. You can tell that there is a battle that is happening. They, as I was mentioning, it's not a mecha, but sort of the ship. And this is, I guess, the quote unquote booby trap that this episode is named for. Is that like as these bad guys are getting, as Jaundice Metalface is getting closer, this huge gun on top of the starship powers up, and they can't control it or they can't shut it down manually, and it fires and destroys two again of these like Pokemon metapods that are out in space. And so like just the fact that this thing is just shooting huge lasers from Macross Island into orbit and destroying everything, like the fact that there's this entire fleet of villains that are like kind of approaching Earth at the same time, and we've got a handful of pilots that are using this alien technology, this Robotech, to be able to combat them. Just really good job. Like, you know, as we mentioned, even just the mecha, the sort of the final, like that chicken walker to the big mecha, like falling through the building. Like, you really got a great size and scale and scope of like how big these things are, the damage that they do, and just sort of the weight, the heft that's behind them. So this show, for a pilot episode of this series, did a phenomenal job of kind of getting you introduced to the combat and the conflict that's going to take place over the entire series.
I thought they did a pretty good job with the action. They've kind of have like, they've got an air show thing where they kind of dip into the action a little bit, with Rick Hunter showing up and kind of like buzzing the comm tower and things like that. There's kind of a brief battle when the crashed alien ship attacks the Zentradi, like you said. And like then the biggest battle is when there's like the full-on invasion. But honestly, to me, it felt like I was watching a different show all of a sudden, because everything had been focused on the ground. Everything had been focused around the alien ship and the Robotech fighters, and that had not even been launched yet. And then all of a sudden we're like in space, and there's these weird floating, like, they look like TV dinners just like floating through space. And then they were just like shooting lasers and launching fighters and stuff from them. And it just looked like a completely different show. Like, I was like, well, you never showed me any of that stuff before. So all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess this is the Earth forces in space, but it's not the ones that you had been like prepared to use all along. So it's kind of like their existing forces, I guess, and not the ones used from Robotech. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But then even the bad guys say, like, why aren't they using the technology? It's almost like they don't know how to use it. And why are they using such like primitive measures? Even our scout ships got through their like first lines and stuff like that. So it was good that they showed how quickly the human forces were overmatched by these invading forces, and then it was too little of Rick and the fleet kind of trying to gain ground back. It was too little of that, and it was chaotic, and it was very engaging, and it was fun to watch those kind of dogfights and stuff in the sky, but it just seemed like too little too late. I didn't get the sense that they were like gaining any ground or they were going to actually like save the day. It just seemed like it didn't feel like it.
Oh,
it just
really?
felt like they were like learning how to fly for the first time.
I thought that I don't think that it, yeah, I mean, I didn't get the sense that like they were going to win this battle, but it was a nice tease to be like, hey, you know, here's the big reveal, like, but there's there's a large battle that's going to ensue while you're trying to figure your shit out.
I mean,
which
if this whole first series is talking about like the actual invasion and trying to repel it, then of course there's going to be more stuff. But it just seemed like for me it was just a little too late to be like one of the highlights of the episode. I still scored it fairly high, but
okay.
So what'd you score this one?
I gave this a 5.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I really liked.
You didn't even give the battle at the end of what was it? Ninja Robots a 5, and that was essentially a similar thing.
Yeah, I mean there was some things that were going on there. I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4.
You had Ninja Robots a 4?
I gave Ninja Robots Battle a 4 in terms of the scale.
Fair, I think. You gave it a 5. I gave it a 3. I thought it was okay.
Okay.
I thought it was okay.
All right.
Because it was more focused on like Rick and him just like crashing. And like pulling the lever for configuration B. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, but again, I think for me, what really did it was the fact that like the rest of this battle was waging on, and like despite your bullshit about figuring out like, hey, now I'm a fighter pilot and I have to kill somebody and I have to figure out how to do these things. There's still a massive battle that's going on without you that you're like that you're watching as he's fumbling around in this fucking thing. Like,
fair enough.
It's pretty. I enjoyed that.
All right. Did you enjoy anything in Gundam? Because there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean that's
no,
very
like,
accurate. Like I was waiting for something to happen the entire time.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, I was like, yeah, I guess, my kind of initial impression is that this is just going to be one of those things where you like it's going to be a Dragon Ball where, you wait
slow burn. Yep.
You wait like 25 episodes for somebody to throw one fucking punch, and I was just like,
well, there's a lot of punches thrown. Let's get that out right
okay,
now. There's a lot of punches thrown.
You're gonna wait a while for there to be sort of a grand or more epic battle. This sort of, like you said, this was a slow burn. This was boring to watch. Plus, I couldn't figure out what the conflict actually was that was here. We got the battle between Camille and the Titans. We got a battle between Camille and 2 separate teachers. Got a battle between Camille and the military police, battle between Camille and his lawyer, battle between Camille and his mom, battle between Camille and that girl that would not let him alone and then stow away in a car and skip school as well, who was giving him shit about skipping school and then skipped school herself. And then, obviously, there was the final battle between Camille and his ability to drive a Jeep. So there was just...
He drove it pretty well. He just jumping into the forest aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't anything that kind of like teased me out that got me kind of going and saying like, hey, I should really watch another episode based on the battles that happened during this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the only thing, you get to see the Gundam in action very, very briefly and just kind of like cool little, not even like hero shots, just to be like, hey guys, it's a Gundam, but nothing even close to what these things are capable of. I mean, these are normally supposed to be like when you send your mobile fleet in and they're just getting mowed down or taken apart, like you send Gundam in as like your hero, it's the hero piece of your army. Like this is the thing that's going to save the day, going to turn the tide, going to win the war for you. And this just was not on display in this episode.
At the end of this episode, they did with a Gundam what Gurren Lagann does with fan service boobs.
Yeah.
It was like they're just gonna tease you a little bit.
Oh, I thought you meant where they just like you got a full shot of the Gundam because it just crashed into a building because the pilot that was flying it was inept, so you just get like a full head-to-toe shot of it, but it's because it's laying on a building at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the best. I might actually knock this down a peg. What did you score it?
I gave this a 2.
I gave it a 2 as well, but it makes me wonder if that's even too high.
I thought about that for a second, but at the same time, like, again, I feel like the entire thing that like carried this, like, I thought the stuff with Quattro, with him like fighting through like the air duct and breaking in to the base, was cool. I thought that was a really cool battle. That was the battle that I was the most interested in watching. Like,
Right.
it would like squirting the little glue out of the Gundam's arm, like shooting all this stuff. Like there was so much stuff going on with Quattro that I was like, this is fun and exciting. Just focus on this, dummies. Like, I don't care about Camille.
Yeah, nobody cares about Camille, which is part of the problem for Camille.
Guys, public schools. Ugh.
Well, public like military schools, I guess.
Public military schools, guys.
Public military schools. North Korea, we're looking at you. All right, so it's time to tally everything up. I think we're actually really close on Robotech.
Okay.
Believe it or not. It looks like, and you might want to correct my math on here, it looks like I gave it an 18 out of 25, and you scored it a 17 out of 25.
Looking back through my numbers, I gave it a 17. That's correct.
Awesome. So that's pretty close. As for Mobile Suit Gundam, it looks like we both gave it a 15 out of 25.
I gave it a 13.
13? Hold on. Let's see.
I had, for theme, I had 3.
Oh, I didn't write down your characters one. That's why.
Yeah.
So you had 3, 2. What were your characters?
3.
Okay, so we're at 8.
3 and 2.
Yeah, 13. Okay, so I gave it a 15. You gave it a 13. It's weird that I am on the higher end of scores for once. I'm usually pretty stingy when it comes to this stuff, but they're pretty close. Honestly, like...
I learned it from watching you, Dad.
Yeah, that's right, kid. About damn time you smartened up. So any final thoughts on Robotech standalone or versus Zeta Gundam, or whether you'd want to watch more from either of these?
I think that I will read more. Well, first, I would recommend this version of Robotech.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I have to recommend Gundam because it's Gundam. I feel like it's kind of sacrilege, but I will watch more Robotech. I will read more about the story of Gundam.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think for me, I have not watched Robotech, so I really want to go back and watch Robotech. So I will recommend it just because I know it has like an incredible following and an incredible story. The more it gets into it, it didn't really lay the surface or lay the foundation of any kind of like interesting political plot. It's pretty much a straight up like alien invasion and we're trying to fight it, and that's fine. So I would recommend it because I'm recommending myself to go watch it. However, for Gundam, I'm actually going to say don't start with Zeta Gundam because it expects you to understand so much from the previous series that came before it. I'm actually going to say go back and watch the original series, which is what I'm also going to do. And then I think you'll enjoy Zeta Gundam a little bit more because you'll have that background, that experience. You'll have grown with it. You know the world that they live in. You'll understand the politics better. You'll recognize when certain characters show up. You'll recognize when certain characters are referenced, and it'll really just heighten your enjoyment of the show. And it'll be cooler when you get to see that Gundam come back too, because you've spent the entirety of that first series with the one Gundam. So seeing a Mark II come in is kind of a cool thing.
Nice.
So I'll say don't start with this one. Head back and watch Mobile Suit Gundam. And I'm gonna do the same thing so we can watch it together. Safe to say neither of these get the dip.
Correct. All of them stay alive.
All of them stay alive. Mobile Suits forever. All right, buddy, what do you have coming up in the next couple of weeks for our listeners out there?
Hey, guys, as always, I perform improv comedy in the DC area with a group that's called Knox. You can find out more information and tickets witdc.org. We'll be performing throughout the entire month of March and most of April. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave, what do you got?
You can find me on Twitter at DrClawMD. You can also find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveDrumboard.com. If you're interested in finding out more about this particular podcast, you can head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. You can also head to our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can also check us out on Twitter at MorningToons. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep the conversation going on Facebook. And listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and anywhere else you find your podcasts. If you want to drop a line for a future episode or let us know everything we got wrong about Robotech and Gundam, feel free to email us SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Next week, we're going to continue more Mecha March Madness. We've got a couple more seeds coming up. We're going to pit 2 against each other. Hey, do we have any special guests coming up?
I think we do. I think we have a friend of the show, Tony Lazzaroni, that's going to be joining us.
Fantastic.
I also, speaking of friends of the show, I also received a text message the other day from a listener and
Camille Cosby.
And no, it's not Camille Cosby. No. This is from from Letty, who
From Fast and Furious?
no, come on.
Oh.
She messaged me to tell me and let me know that we had originally thought that that GI for GI Joe stands for General Infantry. It stands for General or for Government Issue.
Government issue.
Government.
Why do I think General Infantry?
Government
that doesn't
issue.
make any sense.
Because we're just bullshitting.
We are just bullshitting.
Thank you, Letty.
No fake news here.
Jeez. So just want to throw that out there.
Government issue Joe.
Government issue Joe.
Now I'm curious.
It's coffee. It's straight up. It's a show about coffee with
just coffee.
Coffee with
that
guns.
Actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. The more you know.
Yeah.
Picture that star going across your screen as we say, "Thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. We'll see you next time."
Hey everybody! Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.